What if the most restrictive, dangerous place for a young Hollywood actress isn't some shady backroom casting couch, but like her own multi-million-dollar television contract?
Right. A prestige television contract.
Right.
Of all things.
Exactly. Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome to a brand new deep dive. Today, we are pulling you right into the epicenter of, well, basically a massive pop culture earthquake.
Oh, absolutely an earthquake.
Yeah, the explosive, highly anticipated, and deeply, deeply polarizing return of HBO's Euphoria with its season 3 premiere.
It's a return that has just fundamentally shaken the show's audience. I mean, we are looking at a 4 to 5 year time jump here.
Right.
Both in the real world, between seasons, and within the actual fictional timeline of the show itself. And the cultural landscape that this premiere is landing in today, vastly different from the one it left behind.
Oh, totally different. And to figure out how we got here, we've gathered a stack of varied sources for you. We're pulling from a meticulously detailed breakdown by the YouTube channel Emergency Awesome, and an entertainment article from Yahoo and Out magazine that's really tracking the intense fan backlash. Plus, we're diving deep into the trenches of 2 highly active, fiercely debated Reddit threads from Euphoria and Pop Culture Chat.
Those threads are wild right now.
They're completely unhinged. But our mission today isn't just to map out the sheer chaos of these new plot lines, though we will do that.
Right.
We are going to analyze exactly why this single hour of television has ignited a massive politically charged cultural debate, about the male gaze, the concept of choice feminism, and really just how we consume modern media.
Because the reaction to this episode is so much bigger than just television criticism. It's like a mirror reflecting some really deep current anxieties about gender, power, and exploitation.
Yeah, but before we can even touch the cultural outrage, we have to establish the baseline of what actually happened, because the situations these characters have been thrust into are just extreme.
Extreme is an understatement.
Right. It feels less like a time jump and more like these characters graduated high school, walked out the front doors, and literally immediately stepped on a landmine.
Yeah, pretty much.
I found myself looking at these storylines and wondering, are any of them actually functioning adults? Or are they just teenagers who got trapped in increasingly dangerous adult nightmares?
Well, the sources strongly point to the latter. I mean, the episode basically systematically deconstructs any fantasy of the American dream for these young adults.
Right, completely gone.
Yeah, it replaces it with this grim survivalism. Let's start with Zendaya's character, Rue. We learn she is heavily indebted to a drug trafficker named Laurie.
Oh boy. The math on this part.
Yeah, back in high school, this was a $10,000 debt. But the show introduces the brutal, compounding math of predatory criminal lending. Laurie's terms were a 20% monthly interest rate.
See, I actually had to pause and run the math on that when I was looking through our notes, because it sounds like a typo, right?
It really does.
20% compounding monthly over the 46 months that have passed in the show's timeline. That original 10 grand didn't just grow, it mutated.
Oh, massively.
It ballooned to an absurd $43,887,000. I mean, it's just a financial black hole.
It's totally inescapable.
Yeah.
And Laurie uses that impossible number to leverage Rue's entire existence. She bargains the debt down to a flat $100,000, but the catch...
There's always a catch.
Yeah, the mechanism of repayment is that Rue must become her drug mule. And the details our sources highlight here are, well, they're deliberately stripped of any Hollywood glamour.
Yeah, they really are.
Rue is forced to swallow balloons filled with illicit substances and smuggle them across the Mexican border.
And the show leans incredibly hard into the visceral, biological horror of this process. It isn't just a fun montage of driving.
No, not at all.
The sources describe a deeply stomach-churning sequence where Rue has to physically retrieve these balloons.
Meaning she has to poop them out.
Yeah, exactly. And she washes them in a kitchen pasta strainer. And then, in a detail that is just pure pitch-black nihilism, she uses that exact same strainer to make her dinner.
Yeah. But that specific detail with the strainer serves a very deliberate purpose. It forces the audience to confront the absolute degradation of her reality.
Right.
And the trap only tightens when she tries to find a way out. She attempts to get a side job as a fixer for a new trafficker named Alamo, whose legitimate business front is a string of strip clubs.
Right.
And to test her nerve, Alamo literally shoots an apple off her head.
Which is terrifying. But it also highlights how cheap life has become in her world. And, you'd think Rue's storyline would be the most extreme.
You really would.
But then we look at Cassie and Nate, and the exploitation just takes a totally different shape. Cassie is desperately trying to fund a $50,000 dream wedding.
But Nate, who comes from a wealthy family, is entirely broke. The emergency awesome breakdown explains this brilliantly. Nate's father's construction money is entirely tied up in Southern California's notorious building bureaucracy.
Right, all that environmental red tape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is a classic case of being asset-rich but completely cash-poor. The money exists on paper, but he has zero liquidity to actually fund their life.
So this economic pressure basically forces Cassie into the role of breadwinner, which she attempts to solve by starting an OnlyFans account.
And again, the show pushes past standard boundaries here. She isn't just posing in lingerie.
No, she is actively participating in dog play. We are talking wearing a collar, being led on a leash, and literally eating from a dog bowl.
Yeah, it's intense.
It is. She also engages in adult baby play, complete with pigtails and a pacifier. She is basically infantilizing and dehumanizing herself for capital.
And while the rest of the ensemble is faring slightly better, they're all still completely trapped by different broken systems.
Oh, for sure.
Like, Lexi is working as a low-level production assistant on a soap opera called LA Nights, and she's constantly terrified that artificial intelligence is going to render her job obsolete.
Which is a very real fear right now.
Very real. And then Maddie is working as a Hollywood manager, but barely surviving on what the sources describe as slave wages. And Jules has resorted to becoming a sugar baby.
It is a complete and total dismantling of their teenage potential. But I really want to pull back to the visual language of the show, because I think it informs so much of the debate we're going to get into later. Like, how is the camera capturing all of this misery?
Well, the cinematography is working overtime to mirror the psychology of the characters. During Rue's time as a drug mule, the camera work is erratic, shaky, and chaotic. You really feel her internal panic.
Right.
But then the show presents this fascinating sharp contrast. Rue encounters a devout, completely technology-free family living off the grid in Texas.
Oh, right, where she drinks this unprocessed milk from their farm. And the whole visual tone shifts, doesn't it? It suddenly looks so serene.
Exactly, because through Rue's eyes, this deeply isolated, almost cult-like existence looks like a utopian escape.
Wow.
Doesn't matter how restrictive their lifestyle is. To Rue, it represents a break from the relentless toxicity of her own life.
It's this desperate grass is greener illusion, even if the grass is completely disconnected from modern society. So the plot is undeniably extreme.
Very.
But the sheer extremity of these storylines, specifically Rue's physical degradation with the balloons and Cassie's animal play on OnlyFans, that is exactly what has triggered a massive fracture in the show's fan base.
Oh, yeah. The fandom has split into two very distinct, very hostile camps.
Right.
You have viewers who see this as a natural, albeit dark, continuation of the show's core themes of addiction and trauma. And then you have viewers who view this premiere as something far more sinister and exploitative.
I have to push back on the critics for a second, though. I am struggling to understand why there is such a unique level of outrage aimed at Euphoria.
How do you mean?
Well, is this show actually doing anything differently than a phenomenon like Game of Thrones did? That was a show packed with extreme graphic violence, gratuitous sex, and the constant degradation of its female characters.
Yeah.
Yet it was widely celebrated as the peak of prestige television. Why do we give high fantasy a pass but hold a contemporary drama about teenagers to this incredibly puritanical standard?
That is a brilliant question, and it's actually a core part of the debate raging in the Euphoria Reddit thread. The counter-argument to the Game of Thrones comparison is context.
Okay, go on.
Game of Thrones is set in a brutal, fictional past where horrific violence is the baseline of that world. Euphoria, however, claims to be a reflection of our current reality.
Ah, I see.
When a show claims to represent the listener's actual contemporary world, the degradation feels less like a fantasy narrative and more like a prescriptive statement on modern youth.
That makes a lot of sense. The proximity to reality changes how the audience processes the trauma. Now, as we dive into this fandom fracture, we need to make something very clear to you, the listener.
So,
yes, very important.
we are not taking a side here. We are not going to tell you that this episode is an empowering feminist masterpiece, nor are we going to declare it a misogynistic disaster.
Exactly.
We are going to objectively report the passionate arguments from both sides of the fandom, because the debate itself reveals so much about how media is interpreted today.
Let's examine the critics first. The backlash directed at the show's creator, Sam Levinson, is incredibly intense. Across the Reddit threads and entertainment articles, many users are flat out dismissing the premiere as Sam Levinson wank material.
Yikes.
Yeah. They argue that the extreme scenes serve no legitimate narrative purpose and are designed purely for shock value, catering to an audience they refer to as porn-sick gooners.
Let's quickly define that term for anyone not deep in internet slang. Porn-sick gooners refers to people whose brains have been essentially rewired by the overconsumption of extreme adult content.
Right.
Meaning they constantly require more shocking, more degrading imagery to feel anything. The critics are accusing the showrunner of catering specifically to that desensitized gaze. Furthermore, the critics point out a severe economic disconnect from reality, particularly regarding Cassie's sex work storyline.
Oh, this was fascinating.
Real sex workers chimed into the Reddit threads to point out that the platform OnlyFans is no longer the easy, highly lucrative cash grab it was during the 2020 pandemic boom.
Right. The idea that an unestablished creator can just log on, put on a dog collar, and magically conjure $50,000 in a few months ignores the current reality. There's severe market saturation, algorithmic paywalls, and platform cuts.
Yeah, exactly.
The critics argue that portraying sex work as this accessible, lucrative new American dream isn't just lazy writing, it's fundamentally irresponsible to a young audience.
It's essentially applying outdated 2020 internet economics to a show set several years in the future. But, the defenders of the show are equally vocal, and their argument hinges on the genre itself.
What's their take?
They point out that Euphoria has always operated within the exploitation genre. It is fundamentally designed to be uncomfortable, disturbing, and gross.
I read a comment from one user who said they were completely exhausted by the pearl clutching, meaning the faux moral outrage from the critics.
Right.
Their point was that severe drug addiction and financial desperation are inherently degrading. When Rue is gagging on balloons or using a dirty pasta strainer, it's supposed to make you feel awful because the reality of severe addiction is awful.
Yeah.
To sanitize it would be the real disservice.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, though, we realize that this fandom fracture isn't operating in a vacuum.
No, not at all.
As we transition over to the Two Pop Culture chat thread, it becomes glaringly obvious that the outrage over this specific episode of television is actually a symptom of a much larger macro-level anxiety.
About what, exactly?
Regarding how women are currently being portrayed across all of Hollywood.
This is the part of the deep dive that really hooked me. The viewers in these sources aren't just critiquing a script, they're linking the imagery on their screens directly to real-world cultural fears.
Yeah, users are drawing direct parallels between the degrading imagery of Cassie on a leash and the horrific realities exposed in the Epstein files. Wow. They feel there is a tangible societal backslide into misogyny, and they see this television show as a reflection, or perhaps even an endorsement, of that backslide.
Which brings us to the tipping point of the entire debate, a concept known as choice feminism.
Right, choice feminism.
It's the sociological idea that if a woman actively chooses to do something, even if that act is traditionally degrading, objectifying, or harmful, it is automatically labeled as empowering simply by virtue of her being the one who made the choice.
Yeah.
I want to use an analogy here to explain why the critics in our sources are so angry about this concept. Think of choice feminism like being handed a stack of VIP chips at a casino.
Okay.
You feel powerful, you feel like a high roller, making your own bets, choosing your own games, but the house still designed the games, the house set the rules, and ultimately the house always wins.
That's a great way to put it.
The critics argue this version of feminism is a psychological trap designed by a male-dominated industry. It convinces women to do the dirty work of objectifying themselves, all while making them believe they are the ones in control.
That casino analogy perfectly sets up a very powerful quote brought up in the sources from the author Margaret Atwood. It encapsulates this exact psychological trap.
Oh, I love Margaret Atwood. What does she say?
She wrote, quote, "Even pretending you aren't catering to male fantasies is a male fantasy. You are a woman with a man inside, watching a woman. You are your own voyeur."
Wow, we really need to pause on that. You are your own voyeur.
Yeah.
What Atwood is describing is a state of constant self-surveillance. It's the idea that in our modern hyper-visual culture, a woman is never just existing. She's constantly evaluating how her existence looks to a hypothetical male observer.
Exactly. And the critics are arguing that Cassie's storyline is the ultimate manifestation of this trap.
Right.
She thinks she's taking control of her financial destiny, but she's doing it by literally putting herself on a leash for an unseen audience.
And this anxiety isn't limited to Euphoria. The sources highlight how audiences are noticing a broader pattern in recent media, pointing to a trope they call born sexy yesterday.
Oh, that trope is everywhere right now.
The born sexy yesterday trope is fascinating. It's when a piece of media presents an adult woman who has a mature, highly sexualized body, but possesses the cognitive, development, naivety, or emotional maturity of a child.
Right. It pairs innocence with extreme sexual availability.
Exactly.
The Reddit users cited several recent examples of this bleeding into mainstream art. They pointed to the Oscar-winning film Poor Things, the recent film Anora, and even the visual aesthetic of pop star Sabrina Carpenter.
Right.
They are seeing this recurring pattern where women are portrayed as naive, sexy babies or literal dogs on leashes, and the industry is marketing it to the public as progressive, boundary-pushing art.
To really drive this point home, the users contrasted Euphoria with a different show, HBO's Girls.
Oh, that's an interesting comparison.
Now, Girls also explored incredibly explicit, uncomfortable sexual themes and degrading situations for its young female characters. So why didn't it face the same specific type of backlash?
The difference lies in a concept called the male gaze, which refers to how the camera itself acts as a character.
Right.
In Girls, creator Lena Dunham utilized a camera gaze that was awkward, unpolished, and clinical. The camera didn't ogle the characters, it observed them, often highlighting the absurdity or discomfort of the sex scenes.
But in Euphoria, the critics argued the camera's gaze is fundamentally different. Even when the characters are in the depths of trauma or degradation, the lighting is glossy, the makeup is perfect, and the camera lingers on their bodies in a way that feels sensationalized.
Right.
The perspective of the camera alters how the audience processes the degradation. It turns trauma into an aesthetic.
It really forces us to ask, is the shock value serving the emotional truth of the characters, or is it serving an entertainment industry that still fundamentally views young women as commodities to be consumed?
It really feels like we are watching the Emperor's New Clothes play out in pop culture. The industry is telling the audience, look at this high art. Look at how empowering and brave this is.
But the audience is starting to look at the naked reality and push back.
Yes. They are asking, are these actresses truly empowered by their creative freedom to take wild risks on screen? Or are they trapped in a Hollywood loop that only rewards them and pays them if they agree to play the role of the sexy baby on a leash?
Which brings us to the core reason why a debate over a premium cable teen drama actually matters to anyone outside of the show's fandom.
Yeah, why should you, the listener, even care?
Because the media we consume doesn't just passively reflect our cultural norms, it actively shapes them.
Exactly. When a massive cultural juggernaut like Euphoria normalizes certain imagery, it moves the needle on what we as a society consider acceptable. It redefines the boundaries of what is considered progressive versus what is simply exploitation with good lighting.
It requires us to constantly interrogate the media diet we are being fed. We have to ask, who is writing these narratives, whose gaze is controlling the camera, and, most importantly, who is profiting when degradation is repackaged and sold back to us as empowerment.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on everything we've pulled from these sources today.
Okay.
Think about the stars of the show, Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney. They are no longer unknown, hungry teenagers trying to get their big break.
No, not at all.
They are massive, powerful A-list celebrities. They have their own production companies, brand deals, and immense industry clout.
They possess a level of power and leverage in Hollywood that very few actors ever achieve.
Right. So consider the paradox of their situation. Does their continued participation in these highly explicit, deeply degrading scenes validate the creator's artistic vision?
That's the big question.
Does it prove that they, as powerful, autonomous women, truly believe in the importance of the story being told? Or does it merely highlight how ironclad, multi-year Hollywood contracts can trap even the most powerful women in the industry?
Yeah.
Does it force them to physically act out and endure narratives they may have emotionally and professionally outgrown years ago?
It is a profound tension between genuine artistic agency and rigid contractual obligation.
It really is. It turns out that when the television machine decides to go off the rails, even the biggest stars in the world are strapped into the ride right alongside the audience. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.